Erev Tov B'Tay. It says in the book of the Chidah, Shem HaGdolim, something important over there. It says that a person who's a Sefardi, he's not allowed to do the minhag of the Ashkenazim, of the Ramah. And if he does so, he needs to do teshuvah on this, on Yom Kippur, vidu and kapara he needs. So that's why a person has to be careful about that. Some people, I tell them sometimes, the minhag of the Sefardim is like this. So what they tell me, right? They say, oh, I like to do like Breslev, I feel connected with Breslev, right? He's connected, So I tell them, I said, it doesn't matter who you're connected to. You were born in a Sephardi family. You got to keep the minhag, of your family. Right? Alti tosh torati mecha. That's what it says, right? In the Mishlei. Right? Don't abandon the customs of your community. So what's the community? The Sephardim. So a person has to do, Sephardi has to do minhag of the Sephardim. And if he doesn't want to do, he needs kapara on this. He needs teshuvah on this. On Yom Kippur. Can you imagine such a thing like this? So a person has to be very careful about that. And okay, I'm sorry.
You can daven in their shul.
That's a good question, right? What he's asking. So the truth is, that a person should try to pray in the shul of his minhagim, with the same minhagim that he has. But once in a while, he cannot find a Sefardi minyan. He can go to a Ashkenazi minyan, of course, no problem, right? But he shouldn't make it like all his life, he's praying with Ashkenazim. It's not proper to be like that. I'm sorry?
You're not allowed to do it. You shouldn't do it. If you have two options to go to Sefardi.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Why should you go to Ashkenazi minyan? If you have a Sefardi minyan, you shouldn't do that. Tell you honestly, I personally, sometimes people talk to me, about moving somewhere, like going to this community, going to this. There's a lot of communities, Jewish communities. The first thing I ask them is, do they have a Sephardi community there? That's what I ask them. If they don't, I don't want to go there. I have no business over there. What am I going to do? Become Ashkenazi? What am I going to do? Go with all the time Ashkenazi? I can't do that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
My son lived in Muncie.
Yeah.
Go to Muncie.
Yeah.
Ashkenazim.
Yeah. So the truth is, that they have Sefardi communities in Muncie. They have in Lakewood. They have in New Jersey, Deal, New Jersey. They have everywhere Sephardi communities. They have. Believe me when I tell you. You gotta open your eyes a little bit and look. Believe me. In Muncie, there are many Sephardim over there that live over there. Many. You just don't have to look for it, a little bit. Open your eyes a little bit, or maybe look on Google, whatever. But you can find. Don't worry. You can find a Sephardi community in Muncie. Believe me, there is. Yeah, I'm saying, Mechila.
Georgian, they're Ashkenazi or Sephardi? What you are, Georgian? Georgian, you are Ashkenazi or Sephardi? Georgian.
Yeah.
Your nationality.
Yeah, the truth is, I spoke about this one time because people ask me these questions, you know what I mean? So, I'll tell you something interesting, about this. One time I was in Eretz Israel, and I went to the city of Lod.
Yeah.
Over there in Lod, they have a big Georgian community, They have a shul over there, big shul. I don't know, I heard like 600 people come over there, for Shabbat. It's a very large community, whatever. So, there, right, the rabbi, the Georgian rabbi that was there, he passed away. He was the chief rabbi of the Georgian community. His name was Elashvili. Elashvili, right? You remember? Whatever. He was here a couple of times also. He came over here to visit us over here, right? So he was, a person who had a masoret, whatever. So he wasn't around when I went there. He was already passed away. But his son, is there. His son. So I had, a meeting with his son. We sat down. We got together. I told him. I said, tell me about your family. Your father, he was a rabbi. You're a rabbi. You know what he told me? He said, he says, in our family, 10 generations of rabbis, one after the other. 10. Can you imagine? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All rabbis. Elashili, right? Yeah. So I asked him, I said, what do you know, about the minhagim of the Georgians? So you know what he told me, he said, right? He said, all the minhagim of the Georgians is Sefardi, everything, 100%. That's what we have a tradition in our family, 100% everything is Georgian. If you see some Ashkenazi minhagim, you know why? Because Chabad came in, and they changed some minhagim. That's what happened, Chabad came into Georgia. Yeah. They changed some things. This is what happened. This is the reason why they did some, half and half. By the way, this happened also in Morocco. It happened in Paras. It happened in Bukhara. Chabad came in and changed minhagim. It happened everywhere. You know why this is? Because in those generations the communities were weak, they didn't have rabbis of their own. So Chabad had to come in, and teach them Torah because they didn't know. Everybody was Amaretz over there. Nobody knew how to do nothing, This is the reason why Chabad had to come in, But the problem is, Chabad on the one hand, they're good. You know why? Because they teach Torah. They're give chizuk. But on the other hand, they tell you, do the minhag, our minhagim. They tell you, do like we do. That's what they do. You're not allowed to do that. You cannot change the minhagim of the community like that. It's not proper to do that. Whatever.
And we have to believe them, Rabbi Lubavitch is Mashiach. We have to believe them.
Yeah, is that what we're talking about right now? We're not talking about that. God bless you. God bless you, David. God bless you. Okay, we're not talking about that now. We're talking about minhagim, right? But anyway, the point is, right, that don't switch. So if I personally will not live in any community where there's no Sefardi community there. I won't go there. Because I don't want to become Ashkenazi. What am I going to do? Every time pray with the Ashkenazim. And then I'm going to tell you, okay, do our minhagim, do this, do that, do this, So I'll tell you something interesting about this, which is important to understand, There is a tshuva of Maran Bet Yosef, in his book Avkat Rochel. Right? In Siman Reish Yud Bet, over there, he talks about this, What happens if a person moves from one community to another? You know what I mean? He moves from here to there. So, for instance, let's say, right, he was Sefardi, and he moved to Poland, you know what I mean? Over there, everybody's Ashkenazi. There's no Sefardim in Poland. I don't know, maybe now there is, I don't know, but in the old days, there was never anything. By the way, in Moscow, they have Sefardi community. Now they have. You know that, right? They never had before. But now, they came for business, whatever. In Moscow, they have Sefardi community.
Also, but following Chabad over there.
Whatever it is, but they have Sefardi community now in Moscow. You can imagine, right? But anyway, the point is, if a person goes, right, from a place where, he's Sefardi, he went to Ashkenazi, no Sefardim over there, no Sefardi community, no Sefardi Beddin, no nothing. What does he have to do? He has to switch to their minhagim. He has to switch. Because there's no community to support him. You know what I mean? So he's got to switch. Same thing also, when a Ashkenazi guy goes to a Sefardi, community, right? No Ashkenazim over there. He has to switch. This is the thing, because when you're in a place where, and the problem is like this, if you're going to do like your minhagim, and over there nobody does like you, you're the only one, right? There's going to start to be machloket, They're going to tell you, why are you doing this way? What's going on? What are you doing? What are you doing? What is this? What is this? They don't know your minhagim. They don't understand what you're doing. So if you move over there, you gotta do, because of shalom, lotit do. Don't make fights, One part does like this, one part does like that. Each person in the community does different. It's no good. Lotit do. It's a prohibition, from the Torah. Some say it's from the Torah. Anyway, right? So this is the thing. So, but if you go to a place where there is a Sefardi community, there you can stay with your minhagim, So if a person goes to Eretz Israel, right? Let's say he moves, Bezat Hashem, we should all go soon, right? What about when you go there? What happens over there? So the truth is, that over there now, currently, it's like 50-50, 50% Ashkenazi and 50% Sefardim in Eretz Israel today. So you can join your community over there, whatever you were over here, you can join them over there also, same thing, you know what I mean? That's the way it is. So what if there's two communities in the town, you can join your community over there and do like you've always been doing, except that what? That you should do like, the Yerushalmi customs, the Eretz Israel customs, which the Sefardim over there, which is a little bit different than what you're doing over here. A little bit different, a little bit different, but that's the main thing, to do like this. There is a tshuva of the Marish Dam about this, because there was a town called Saloniki. You know where this was? In Greece, right? In Greece, yeah, in Greece. So Saloniki was like the old America. You know why? Because just like in America, all Jews came from different places all over the world. They came here and gathered over here. Same thing with Saloniki. They came from all kinds of communities. And they settled into one place, Saloniki. So the question is now, this guy is from Morocco. This guy came from Italy. This guy came, from Turkey, right? They all came to Saloniki. So now, what is the minhag of Saloniki? What do we do? How do we know what's the minhag? You know what I mean? So you know what he says, right? The Marish Dam. He says, because they came from all different places, there is no one minhag. In the town, each shul has a different minhag, So then, right, there is no minhag of the city. There is none. There is no minhag in a situation like that. Because each one has his own minhag. So what does that mean? Nobody can force you, to do like we do, because you came from a different place. So the only time that this applies, that one minhag works in a certain town is where they all do the same. If they all do the same, then you really have to keep that. You cannot do something else. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Selection. Just go after 7 years, go selection, they make community.
So you cannot, if everybody's doing the same, you cannot do. Or let's say you have Sefardi, you have Ashkenazi. You got to join your own community and continue. Yeah, okay. So anyway, right, as we said, right, that when there is many minhagim, it was same thing over here in New York. You have how many communities you have over here? 1,000 communities, right? Each one with their own minhagim. So what is a minhag of New York? There is none. Because everybody does different, So nobody can force you to do like me, do my minhag. Why are you doing minhag? I came from a different place, I came from Bukhara. You come from Paras. This one comes from here. Everyone is different, So each one does his own minhag. They cannot force each other. But one thing for sure, that if you're Sefardi, you gotta keep Sefardi. If you're Ashkenazi, you gotta keep Ashkenazi. There was, by the way, so it says in Avkat Rochel like this, like pretty much what I told you. But here's the thing, right? What about if in Eretz Israel, what happened was over there, I'll tell you guys an interesting story. In Eretz Israel, the situation was like this, Is Eretz Israel, by the way, is it a Sephardi country or an Ashkenazi country?
Sephardi.
Sephardi. How do you know? How do you know this?
It's the Middle East. It's like Europe.
Middle East. Oh, you see what I think? Okay. What do you say? We say something? Okay. Middle East. Okay. But the truth is, how do we know? So I was told, by my rabbis, that Eretz Israel for sure is a Sephardi country. It's not Ashkenazi country. And the reason, why this is? Because since the Churban, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, there was a Sephardi community there, always there. It never stopped.
Yeah.
It was always, that's the reason, not because it's a location. There was a Keilah there, Sephardi, all the time. 2,000 years, they never stopped. You understand? That's the thing. What about the Ashkenazim? So the Ashkenazim, if you looked in Eretz Israel like 300 years ago, 200 years ago, there was not one Ashkenazi over there. Nobody.
Right.
You know why this is? I'll tell you a secret. Right? They didn't allow the Ashkenazim to come in there. Who didn't allow?
Sefardi.
Not the Sephardim. The Sephardim, we're brothers, we're all brothers. Why not? Why shouldn't we allow them? What, we hate them? What are they? We're enemies? What is it? So you know what it is? The Turkish, right? The Ottomanim, who ruled over Eretz Israel, before England. They did not allow Ashkenazim to come in there. They were the ones who were in charge. You know why this is? Why? Why did they not allow them? Why do they care? You know why? Because they didn't believe that they're Jewish, these people. They thought they're fake, They look European, blue eyes, blonde hair. This is a Jew? Doesn't look Jewish, this guy. You understand? David HaMelech, okay. How do you know? They come from David HaMelech? How do you know? Gingy, I know. David HaMelech was not gingy. He was not gingy. He didn't have red hair. He didn't have red hair. That's a mistake, by the way. David HaMelech was not gingy. Anyway, the point is, right, that they didn't believe, that they're Jewish. If they would come over there, they would tell them, go back to where you came from. Hey, hello, go back. You're not Jewish. Don't come to me and tell me you're Jewish. Blonde and blue eyes. You don't look Jewish to me. You understand? David. That's the thing, So, this is the reason. Can you let me speak? I'm sorry. Mechila. Finished?
Yeah.
Okay. So, God bless you. So anyway, as we said, right, they wouldn't let them in, so they couldn't get in. So when were they able to come in, the Ashkenazim? When the Ottoman Empire lost the rule of the Eretz Israel, right? And who did it? Who gained it? The English, right? The British. Once the British came in, and ruled over Eretz Israel, then the Ashkenazim were able to come in. But before that, they were not able to come in. So Eretz Israel was always was always a Sephardi country. Always, from the time of the Churban HaBayit until today. So here's the thing now. Because of this, right, says Maran, in Avkat Rochel, what I told you, right, Reshut Bet, over there he writes, that if new people start to come in, to a certain country, and the country already has a minhag, from a long time ago, right? They always have an established minhag. They all have to change, and become like the place where they're going to. They all have to change. They have to convert, So in the old days, right, what it was is Ashkenazi came in, to Eretz Israel. He had to convert to be Sefardi because it was a Sephardi country.
Right.
But what happened was, right, that afterwards they started to come in, like big numbers, Ashkenazim, in masses, they start to come in with Bet Din, and Rabbanim and the big Kehillah. This happened like the last 100, 150 years. You understand? So here's the thing, right? Now, what happened was, right, that there was a question that came up with the Ashkenazim. The question was like this, right? The question was, should we switch to be Sfaradim, like it says in the Avkat Rochel, or should we stay with our minhagim? That was the question that they had, the Ashkenazim, about themselves. So what happened was, that they took a vote. They got to get with a Bet Din, they made a Bet Din. They took a vote, and they voted that they're going to stay Ashkenazi. Even though there was one Chacham, who voted the other way. He said that they should convert to Sephardi, But two of the Chachamim of the Bet Din, they voted to stay Ashkenazi. That's why they stayed Ashkenazi. Otherwise, they would have to convert to be Sephardi.
You're right. Also, Ben Gurion, when they coming, they chat. They didn't
David,
like the Torah.
let me finish, David. We have to go home. We have to go eat dinner. We have to eat dinner, David, Mechila. Mechila. So that's the thing, So as we said, in Eretz Israel today, it's 50-50, But in the old days, it wasn't like this. But the nafka mina is, that Eretz Israel really, according to the history, it always was a Sephardi country. That you have to understand, It was never Ashkenazi country. ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנן שאומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעוזק את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. אמן.